typical Vader, choking grown men. Holy sh...
Do it.
Hello there, Star Wars fans, and welcome back. Episode 3 of Kenobi was wall-to-wall insane awesomeness. If you had asked me about the music after I watched this episode the first time, I couldn't have told you anything because I was so pulled into everything happening on screen the entire time. So let's start right from that opening scene. Kenobi tries to commune with the Force and his old master Qui-Gon Jinn yet again. This is at least the 4th failed attempt now, and I'm really looking forward to whichever episode finally brings Liam Neeson, either in voice or in full-on Force Ghost, into Kenobi's reality. But as Kenobi communes, we first hear this excerpt from his theme play several times. I think it's notable that the part we're hearing at this point is a portion from his theme that descends. This is always heard as a rhetorical device in music reflecting sadness or a down state of mind, but also of inner reflection as the music moves down to a resting point, trying to settle inward. However, as we begin getting these flashes of Vader's construction, and I know we got some of these shots in the trailer, but how cool was it to see these shots of Vader being put together? I mean, you think you have a rough morning routine to get out the door? But underneath this sequence is music that is built around Vader's theme, even though it's not right out in the open. The bass line flirts with his theme. If we look at the notes, we see that it's outlining the intervals of Vader's theme. This is, in my opinion, an incredible adaptation of Vader's music by Natalie Holt, and one of the best musical moments so far in this series. And it shows us that Vader's been there the entire time. The music we've been hearing was always his, even if we didn't know it yet. Personally, I think there was a missed opportunity after this to incorporate the Force theme as Obi-Wan tells Leia about the Force. This could have perfectly reflected the moment in A New Hope as he explains the Force to Luke, and we get this subtle Force theme underneath. These themes have been delicately wrapped into the music fabric so far, but I wish they would come fully out in the open at some point as well, giving us that nostalgic feeling of the original music and movies that everything else has been based off of. But then, as they approach this new planet of Mapuzo, we get a new theme for the planet. The theme is simple and reflects a very folksy sound using a chant-like voice and flute. The texture also incorporates one of my favorite compositional techniques, something that we call heterophony in music. This is when multiple instruments or performers play the same line or melody, but each with slightly different inflections to the melody itself. It's noticeable because in our own galaxy, we hear this sound a lot in the traditional music of Eastern cultures. But it's always been considered a taboo practice in European-influenced Western music. I've had multiple composition and orchestration teachers tell me, in fact, that I should never write just 2 instruments on a line together because of the intonation issues that occur. But it's actually an incredible sound, and here it works perfectly. As Reva returns to the Inquisitor's base, the Inquisitor theme plays, and it gets its most military march type playout yet. It doesn't actually become the Imperial March, but it definitely hints towards it. Perhaps we can call this the Inquisitorial March? The march comes back again as the probe droids are launched into the universe. Anyone else, by the way, ever question how these probes are able to get to the other systems so fast? I had the same question in Empire Strikes Back as well. These probes don't seem to have any hyperdrives, so how do they travel to other systems in the time it takes Kenobi to walk a few miles? While Kenobi and Leia meet Freck, the strings maintain a low tension throughout the initial meeting by staying tremolo, meaning that the players are quickly moving the bow back and forth on the same note. In addition, They play with a sul ponticello style, meaning that the bow gets closer to the actual bridge. This gives the sound of the instrument a more metallic and distorted sound, which gives us a sense of discomfort. As the stormtroopers enter Freck's transport, we hear music from Empire Strikes Back. It's similar to the music cue, Darth Vader's Trap from Empire Strikes Back, which is perfect as foreshadowing for what's going to happen next. The music then cuts back to the Mapuzo theme as the camera cuts back again, giving that panoramic feel as the orchestration also gets bigger. You can hear the similarities here to the original soundtrack cue from Empire Strikes Back, and what an incredible callback. The same cue comes back as the transport approaches the checkpoint, and then again as the reinforcements approach. This makes sense to the larger music we hear with the ascending minor third, as well, since it's the first and last note of this exact cue. We then jump to the Inquisitors and get their theme again. This show uses so few actual themes, but Natalie Holt is clearly a master of variation. Each time we hear these themes, they're changed in some way so that they always feel fresh. As Obi-Wan sees the name Quinlan Vos and realizes that he's alive, the music immediately turns to this more peaceful sound. It's easily the most at peace that Kenobi feels for the entire episode, and it may even be the source of his redemption in later episodes. The stormtroopers immediately interrupt that moment though when they knock, and the tremolo strings come back and bring their tension with them. Later, as he speaks to Tarla, we hear what sounds like the Battle of the Heroes theme in the background. These slight nods to other themes without actually giving them outright are phenomenal, and it again perfectly foreshadows what's coming next. As he senses this disruption in the Force, we get this somewhat soulful, mystical music, and then we see Vader. I was not expecting this, and the strings play as low as they ever have in this show for a moment before the ascending minor third returns. Kenobi is in Vader's trap now. The pause in music after this is terrifying, as everyone on screen freezes, and then it immediately kicks back in as Vader goes on a killing spree. This scene really drove home for me just why everyone, even Imperials, are so terrified of his presence. The low tremolos with sul ponticello return, giving a haunting effect before a brief silence until Vader finds his prey and ignites his lightsaber. The menacing minor third returns then, and Kenobi running away in terror is a perfect reflection of his character right now. We get this timid occurrence of his theme as he tries to hide, and then more allusions to Vader's theme. As we skip back to the town, the Vader's trap cue is referenced again as well. As Vader goes full on attack, the brass enter with these jabs similar to his attacks, again greatly reflecting a John Williams style of composing. Desperation fills the score through this section, and Natalie Holt creates a cousin track to go with what we heard during the final battle in Revenge of the Sith. And the scoring actually seems to change for characters. Notice how Reva, younger and newer to us, gets more electronics, while Kenobi and Vader receive more orchestral cues, referencing a sound we already are familiar to with them. She does an amazing job of moving seamlessly between these sounds as well. Not an easy task, for sure. The music becomes dark and menacing as Vader lets Kenobi leave. This isn't over, and they will meet again. As Leia meets Reva and we hear her voice, the music immediately shifts and gets even darker, and the show ends like that. Pretty much all hope is lost at this point. This is the moment when the rest of us would lose hope, and when heroes are born and defined. I don't know about you, but the wait for episode 4 is going to be long and brutal this week. How will Leia escape? What's next for the beaten down and devastated Obi-Wan Kenobi? I want to hear from you now. Is there anything that you heard that I missed? And tell me what you thought of this episode. Did you like the music? Did it give you any sense of nostalgia? I'll be releasing another video in a couple of days that will break down the theme for Kenobi, so look for that on Monday. And before you go, please don't forget to like this video and subscribe to learn more about the music of the galaxy far, far away. And as always, may the be with you.